Walk with me through the cellar door.
The storm is coming, Francis.
A portal to a more skeptical world.
Cellar Door Skeptics begins right now. Prepare for the revolution with your hosts, Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna.
Welcome back to another episode of Cellar Door Skeptics. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. This is episode 38, coming to you probably with some booms and bangs in the background as the fireworks take off and try to eat up our lives here at Tanner Castle. So, as we're recording this, we want to apologize to anybody in advance that is listening to this. If you hear a little bit of booms and bangs and issues like that, we're going to try and edit them out, but I can't guarantee you won't hear fireworks in the background. And so if this is triggering, please make sure you move on to the next episode, because not all of them will I be able to edit completely out. But it's a great pleasure for me to bring on my co-host, Mr. Chris Hanna. How are you tonight, sir?
I am doing pretty good. Long weekend. Got some work to do tomorrow because small business doesn't take the day off.
Yeah, well, that's just because you're slaves to yourself. Look at the greedy capitalists over there trying to make more money to put more money in his pocket. Damn greedy capitalists they are. You're not even really a socialist, are you, Hannah?
Jeez. Yeah, I'm taking my Donald Trump business plan, and I'm going to work 95 hours a week, and that's the way that they say you should do it, I guess. Right?
As long as you admit that you like Donald Trump.
No, can't do it. Cannot do it. There's no way in hell. Even with the laughter track, it's not going to happen. There's no way. There's no way in any realm of possibility that Donald Trump would ever be a good option for me or anybody I've ever known that has ever lived.
Well, good. I'm glad we got that out of the way, because last couple episodes you swore allegiance to Donald Trump. And so for those listening, if you haven't heard that, go back and listen to our last two episodes. Throughout them, you will hear Hannah swear allegiance to Donald Trump.
I don't know how I would swear allegiance to a puffball of hair on what I assume is just a sorcery animated marionette corpse floating around on stage, or is that Ozzy Osbourne? I can never remember.
I can never remember either.
Yeah.
So as we start the episode out tonight, I wanted to reflect a little bit. We had a weekend last weekend where I went camping. I took my kids. We went to the CFI. And they had a retreat where basically we go for a couple of days, hang out, drink some booze, do a bunch of crafts, have fires, go swimming, kayaking, and hang out with a bunch of like-minded people. And unfortunately this year, Hannah and his wife and their newborn didn't come, probably for good reasons. It was a little warm. It's not great for children under the age of 1.5, though you can bring them. But we had a great time that weekend, and it was nice to be able to, hang out with people that are like-minded in the area of Grand Rapids. So for anybody listening to this, if you are in the Grand Rapids area and you want to join us next year, make sure you seek out the CFI of Michigan, because they will have a posting every couple of months where they talk about their next upcoming camping experience next year, which I believe is in the middle of July next year. So they decided to make it hot again. I don't know why the fuck they would do that, but they decided to make it in the middle. And if you're local, you want to join, my daughters loved it. Hannah, the best part about the whole weekend for my kids was the fact that they met new children. And guess what those children didn't ask them?
What church you go to?
Or if they believed in God. We moved to Zealand, and, their next door neighbor, one of the girls preaches to them basically, every freaking day. And it was nice that they got to meet other friends of theirs that were similar in age. The question didn't even come up. It wasn't even a topic of conversation.
I don't think it should be a question or a topic that little kids should have anyways. I mean, they shouldn't be worrying about existential future eternity when you're 3, 5, 7, 9, whatever. These are things that you shouldn't have to deal with as a child, I would think. Or at least in my idea of what a utopian society would be like. In other places around the world, obviously, kids probably have to deal with a lot more important stuff than I did when I was that age.
Yeah. That is very, very true, Mr. Hanna. You had a pretty cozy life there.
Yeah, a little warm and fuzzy. I don't know. There's certain things that can go up and down when you're a deaf person wandering around saying what to everyone. But in the end, yeah, I had a pluralistic upbringing, and my parents are basically middle class, lower middle class. I can't complain, but I do understand and have empathic responses to what other people have. And so, like, I try to imagine, like, when someone is, I guess, put to a rough lifestyle when they're children, like, I can imagine what that was like, and I would like to see that lessened, so to speak. Like, when you talk about some of the stuff, when you testified at 6 years old, I think that's a bit much for a 6-year-old to be, declaring eternal whatever. These are concepts that I wouldn't think that you really probably understood at that time, but
yeah. And I think we'll do a segment later on where we'll talk about parenting, godless parenting, and it'll be a good segment because now you got a kid, so you actually have something you can say about it. Whereas before we were able to say, "Hey, fuck you! You have no kids, you get no say." Right?
Oh,
Isn't that how it goes? Oh, too little social justice warrior for you. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't. I definitely don't like that idea. Like, I understand that maybe I had never been a parent before, but I wouldn't completely push people out just because they've never experienced something. Like, I think that I have somewhat useful perspectives on a little bit on everything, just like you have useful perspectives on what it's like for a deaf person in society. You never have been, but you can probably make a basic judgment. Or like we've never been persecuted as a homosexual in society, but we know that we want to not do that and not let people do that. I guess the social justice thing, it can be taken to extremes where it's like, you're not part of this group, so you can't. I think we're both more moderate, so that we could talk about that a little more. And CFI is really good at that. Like, it's a warm. You get a nice environment where you get some people that are more one way or the other. Because I was reading some of the posts from Ed Brayton, who said that he had somebody who was pretty confrontational when he was talking. So like you do get pretty intense conversations out there. But overall, CFI is a lot of fun.
Yeah. So let's move on to our actual first topic for the night. And if you hadn't figured it out through the title and through all the other marketing and media bullshit you've seen come out of Stellar Door Skeptics, we're going to talk about ChristianMingle. And I hesitated.
Link bait alert. Link bait alert.
I'll be honest, I hesitated. I hesitated to have this conversation because we had this conversation before about the bakeries. We've had this conversation, I don't know how many times now. And I'll be honest, my opinion has not changed. And no one's presented a good enough argument for me to go, oh, yeah, hey, I'm just going to change my views here. And I don't know, but Chris brought up a really good point. Hey, do we know anything about the background of the company that owns them? Do we, and in reality, Chris, even if this is an overshared and overstimulated conversation, in light of the Orlando shooting, this is a good conversation to have. Because what happens when we don't have these conversations anymore? What happens when we say, we've heard this 100 times? We forget. We don't understand. We don't comprehend. We don't keep this on the forefront. And while we want to claim that, hey, we're on the edge of changing society, we're on the edge of pushing social justice issues further into the conservatives' backs and saying, hey, guess what? You're being fucking outnumbered now. Fuck off. Explicit tag included.
Yeah, there we got it.
We got it. We got it. We can't get around having that explicit tag no matter what we fucking do, Chris. I guess I can't quit swearing. And it's funny because Jeremiah said one time, he's like, yeah, I don't like shows that have swearing. I was like, well, you must not listen to ours, Paleo Radio, because we swear almost
you
every
swear
episode.
A little bit more than I do, but no, like I definitely think that these conversations need to be had. But what I wanted to do was take it from a little bit of different angle. I was just looking into the company that owns these sites and to see if there's anything different that we could talk about. Because I mentioned it's like the ChristianMingle thing. Do you want to talk about it? And you're like, because everybody's ripped it apart, talked about it, and it all comes back to the Civil Rights Act 1964 or 3, and it's they got it right that time. They got it right, saying that no, your personal opinions and your faith really doesn't matter. You can't say no to African Americans coming into your store and being patrons. And I think that covers and should be extended to obviously sexuality and any other thing of that nature. When it does actually say it right in there. Yeah,
it does say right in here in section part 2. It says right in there, and this was from 1872 is when they enacted. It was
Personal
religion,
rights.
color, race, sex, ancestry, national origin, disability, medical condition, genetic information, marital status, sexual orientation, citizenship, primary language, or immigration status. Those are all the things you can't discriminate against. And so when we look at this Christian Mingle thing, and we go, well, shouldn't they be able to do whatever they want, right? Shouldn't they be able to just, I don't know, say, hey, this is ours, we can use religious freedom, and say, no, you can't have gay facets to this website. If the U.S.
was the United States of libertarians, maybe.
Yeah, maybe if it was. But I wish I had a ba-dum-bum track. I need to add that to our tracks. Ba-dum-bum. Anyway, but if you look at it and you look at the reality behind it, yeah, you're right. They shouldn't be able to say that. They shouldn't be able to say, well, we're not going to include a gay option because we're a Christian website. Unless they want to go to such an extreme stance that they're going to not include sexuality at all in their website. And that's the argument I had with the bakery, right? For me, it's not about the fact that they need to or can or want to distinguish between the patrons at a bakery, right? They should be able to do that, but they have to keep it complacent for everybody. So if they say, we're not going to sell cakes to anybody that talks about sex, great. But if they say, well, just gay sex, that's wrong. And that's what Christian Mingle has done, basically. The article we have is from The Advocate, and they basically report the exact same thing the Wall Street Journal did. And I'll be honest, I'm not a big Wall Street Journal fan, honestly. I don't like their articles very well. But this Wall Street Journal article was pretty good. And this Advocate article actually brought up a more important conversation. And in it, basically what it says is Spark is the parent company of more than a dozen dating sites. And so you go, okay, so Christian Mingle 1, and maybe Fundamental Christian Mingle, right? Maybe that sounds right. Or maybe Catholic Mingle. Ironically, Catholic Mingle is, guess what else is? LDS Singles
and LDS Mingle. There's two different Latter-day. Yeah, there's two different Latter-day sites on there, and so my first thought was like, wow, what else does Spark Networks own? Yeah. That's what we wanted to look into. So that's kind of the angle we're taking on this. It's a little bit different than anybody else's, I guess, reported. I haven't seen anybody talk about it. But like a parent company that's taking money. So the Christian Mingle guys, everybody on that website is they're signing up and paying money for the services. Well, that money is going into a big pool of people who own the Spark Network, and that's mixing in. So we've got a bunch of different sites, and let's say those people don't quite mix. I know. And we were reading through it, and they have a deaf singles thing. So they have a thing for me.
They do, and military singles, Adventist singles, which I haven't clicked on it yet because I really don't want my computer to know I went to it. But it almost feels like it's a Seventh-day Adventist singles site. That's my guess is what it is.
Yeah, so no dating on Saturday, I think. Is that how it works?
It would be Saturday. And they have, BBW personals, which has nothing to do with religiosity. And maybe the site does, and we'll click on it in a minute. They have silver singles, black singles. They have Spark.com, a fun site for serious daters, right? I don't even know what the fuck that means. How do you even market that? That just seems stupid.
Well, that's probably for people that want to be like, I'm in this to get married, as opposed for a hookup.
Yeah, so the tagline for Spark.com says, take your time because it's free to communicate on here. That's their tagline, right?
Well, their tagline. Man. They want to get you started.
Yeah, it's just I don't even know where to go with this. But
what I basically would say is the only thing that makes me a little bit whoa, okay, they own all of these things. So they own the LDS Mingle and the LDS Singles page. Well, they also own the Catholic Mingle page. And reading through the Catholic Mingle, I went to Catholic.com and just looked up the LDS, and there's some information they're talking about Joseph Smith and how he took the veil of misunderstanding, saying that basically that the Catholics believe that God is unknowable. He's mysterious, and they'll never completely know. And the Latter-day Saints and Joseph Smith, they basically took away that veil, and they don't agree with him. They think he's wrong and on a variety of topics. And I will include the link to the Catholic.com page where they essentially break apart the LDS perspectives and their beliefs on certain different things as far as what it is, and they also make fun of Joseph Smith for dying in a gun battle in a prison.
They do.
So like my guess is like if you would ask the Catholic people who are involved in that stage, like, hey, would you like the fact that the money you're paying for your Catholic dating site, because you want to be in a community with Catholics, are you cool with that money also going to the same place that the Latter-day Saints go? Because it doesn't sound like there's a little bit of bad blood there. Like this, to me, it sounds like this is a company that's taking all of these different groups and just doing a pure marketing scheme out of this. Like it feels like they're just like, okay, let's make one for the Catholics, let's make one for the LDS, let's make one for the Adventists, but they're not. It's not. I guess it's not. They're not the believers. They're not, honest about it. This seems like it's just a money-making marketing scheme trying to find a new market as opposed to being legit. And so we hear about the argument whether or not it's okay for them to say no to any kind of bisexual, homosexual, anything on that Christian Mingle page. Well, would those people be okay with all the other pages that they're affiliated with too? You're guilty by association and hookup pages and stuff like that. Those are the questions I got. And so, what would those people who are on Christian Mingle saying they don't want people of alternative sexual than just the man woman biblical whatever? Would they be cool with it? Would they be cool with all these other sites being on there as well? Have they even looked into it? Yeah, I doubt it.
Yeah, and I'm sure they haven't. And if you look at it from a pure capitalistic point of view, that's exactly what it is, right? They're basically saying, here's money, we're gonna do it. We just want money. And so let's sign up for an account real quick. So we're gonna do you first. We're gonna put
turn your cookies off, man.
We're gonna do you first. So when you log into Christian Mingle and you go to add yourself, so they ask you, are you a man or a woman? So we're going to click man.
So that we know right out of the gate, there is no way that you can be non-binary on Christian Mingle.
Exactly. and so then we move on and it asks you for your zip code. And so I'm not going to tell my zip code, but there we go, type. And then it asks you for your current relationship status, right? Now, if Christian Mingle is going to be so picky over people who are gay, right, or transgender,
against the biblical perspective,
against their biblical perspective, they should also be against divorced people as well, because technically speaking, there's I think 3 verses that actually address this that I know of, and there could be more, but I know 3 verses address this, and these 3 verses basically call out and say, hey, if you've been divorced, just don't get married again. That's exactly what they're saying. Guess what they ask you? They want to know what your current relationship status is. So we're going to put divorced. Then they ask you how often you smoke. Who gives a shit? I don't smoke.
I guess I can see that being important for a dating site, but really?
Then it asks you for your height. We're going to put 6'9". I have a professional degree. Then it asks you which denomination of church.
Is there a Universalist in there somewhere?
Nope. They have Anglican, Apostolic. I don't even know what that is. Apostolic, Assembly of God, Baptist, Catholic, Charismatic.
What is that?
I don't know. I've never heard of that church faction either. Charismatic, Christian Reformed, Church of Christ. There you go. Episcopalian, Evangelical, Interdenominational. That would probably be
Universal.
Yeah, no, that's the non-denominational down here. Lutheran, Messianic. I don't know how to say
Messianic.
Methodist, Nazarene.
Okay, well,
Orthodox.
I mean, they're hitting most of the important ones. I guess the fringe ones aren't quite.
How often do you attend church is the next thing. On special occasions, that's what I'll put. About children. Then they ask you about children. So I'm going to put I'm open, because that's about as, much. Then it asks you for your birthday. Hannah, what's your birthday?
I'm a Virgo.
I don't know what that means.
Well, I'm assuming they're taking astrology as part of something that's important in here.
I bet you were born in 83.
Close enough. Username, Antichrist. Password,
Antichrist 666.
Oh, man. I wonder if that password's been taken.
Oh, it is. It is. That username, Antichrist, is already used. So let's see if Antichrist 666 is. Oh, that is too.
That's beautiful.
0576. How about that? Oh, that one's.
Oh, they want your email.
I don't want to do that, though.
Just make a random Gmail or something.
People suck 25 at Gmail. I bet this is really good radio here. We're typing on a website.
Well, that you're probably going to get like all kinds of weird. So now when anybody gets upset with you, they're going to listen to the show and they'll be like, we're going to send our porn spam to that email. I've actually.
Now it makes you select a plan. So you have to pay them to even use this site.
Well, yeah.
So they don't even have a free option. Where's my free trial option? Well, I guess that's as far as it goes because I'm not paying them any money because I disagree with them 100%.
I do like the fact that Antichrist and Antichrist 666 were already in use usernames. That's pretty great. Or, you know what, they probably made that blocked so you couldn't use that one.
It could be. Maybe that's what they
That's
do.
a shame.
But nobody's view. Oh, so it lets you do an unlimited one. Well, anyway, so
yeah, I would say that the other thing that I question on these is like this one's probably a little bit more legit. But you remember the big what was it Chelsea something, the Ashley Madison, the site that was for people that were cheaters or whatever. They that was a scam that the people who broke into and displayed all of the usernames on that. Their argument was that it was a scam site and that there were no real women on it. It was just people taking money and just putting out BS, and nobody ever really got hooked up, or very, very low numbers were. So that they were saying that this is a fake site and they wanted to break down that site, not shame the people, but the way in which they did it by spreading all of their information around obviously was shaming, because that's what society concentrated on, not the fact that that site was bogus. So I'm curious, you know, how trustworthy these sites are as well, because I would think that they're probably going to be, it'd be beneficial to have all kinds of bots and fake women on here, because let's face it, I mean, I would say that the majority of users on these dating sites are probably male.
Yeah, and the funny thing with this is so we pointed out the issue with them, you know, basically saying that you're not able to, you're able to be divorced or not, and that violates it. In the end, all this come down to is a money-making scheme. That's all this is.
That's what it feels like, anyways.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to post out when I was mentioning it to you. It's like, it just seems like with all those weird groups they got, like they're not in this to be the best Christians ever. They're in this to make the almighty dollar, and like, hey, each one of these different denominations, we can make an entirely separate market. And, you know, that they love those as identification markers. I'm part of, you know, the Adventist whatever for the dating site. Like that's a market. You've isolated a market. So I'm just curious as to, you know, how legit this is, or if it's just a bunch of dudes in suits collecting money.
Yeah, and I almost feel like it's a bunch of dudes in suits collecting money, because to me that almost seems what the Christian denomination, the Christian thing does, right? And we had a critique that we don't talk enough about anti-God shit, so here you go. fuck Christians in this aspect. I mean, it's just a bunch of people trying to make money, and obviously they've been very successful because they have a very professional-looking website. They were able to pay out, I don't know, what was it, $9,000 to the people, to the plaintiffs who created this suit, and about $500K to the attorneys.
Now that right there, that drives me insane. That the total payout for Spark, they paid the plaintiffs $9,000, and the lawyers made almost $500,000.
Yep, because that's exactly what it costs. And in the end, what they're going to do is they're going to change it so that you're allowed to have whatever sexuality you want. And they're going to stop blocking it. Because that was a big thing, is they were blocking searches, and they weren't allowing people to use the hashtags and different things like that that would create that. But the problem becomes here is that if we don't start forcing these for-profit companies to include this, all we're going to do is create a sect of people who think that they can make and get rich off being racist, off being bigoted, and start to take people's sexualities as a way to discriminate.
Yeah, if they're using the exact same arguments that they used during the civil rights acts. Like they were saying, these aren't they're not good enough people. They're different. Black people are different than white people. They're not as smart. The Bible says they're bad. Like the mark of Cain, the mark of Ham, or the curse of Ham. All of those arguments they're the same arguments. And religion has evolved in certain cases to be, more open to the skin color situation. But now we're at the sexuality situation. And I hope that once we get past this, the same arguments get pushed to the side, because they are the same exact arguments, and they're just as unethical now as they were back in the 60s when it was basically a skin color situation. And we'll go on to the next thing, whatever the next ridiculous thing that they want to do to separate and isolate people that are just people. They're just, in most cases, they don't care. They don't want to fight and battle, but it just keeps getting thrown back into them, this segregation and separationalist stuff. It's sad that it happens, and I wonder how much of it is humans being dicks. As the one we're going through the comment section, of course, and how much of it's just something that we can change, and hopefully in the future this won't be a problem. We can deal with real stuff, real important things like poverty, child poverty, and war, and sadness, and death. We can stop yelling about who's having sexual relations and loving each other. I don't really see how this is anything but a distraction to the real problems in the world.
And it is. And I think you're 100% right. I do think you are. It's just people want to create a distraction. They want to create a way where they can make, an argument that gives them the freedom, the ability to go, well, I don't have to tackle that bigger problem because I don't know how to solve that. I don't know how to solve world hunger. I don't know how to solve children dying every day. And I had that argument when I posted my Pulse, response and my allyship with the LGBT community. And I got, there's 10,000 children a day that die. Well, yeah, that's not the same. That's not the same at all.
You can't Brexit from world hunger?
I obviously can. and so my biggest problem in that realm and with that specific individual is the fact that, yeah, you're right, 10,000 children die a day, but that's a lot more fucking complicated than 25, 40, 50, 100 people being shot up in a club. And it doesn't mean my empathy should change.
No. I actually got refuted a few times. When Prince died, I was like, the whole Family Guy thing when Peter was just like, oh my God, who the hell cares? And that's the same way. It's like, yeah, one guy died. There's thousands of people dying, whatever. And someone says, you know what? I have the ability to care about both of these things. But the person that was a musical inspiration to tons of people and those kids that are dying in Africa. And I was like, yeah, you got a point there. I had to, eat some crow on that. And whatever, it's a legitimate point, and we can care about all these situations. And let's say some of them are a little easier to fix. Like, we've already solved this one in my mind. We've already solved this problem that businesses cannot discriminate based on any of those descriptive factors that you gave. That's done. We can move on. People want to keep bringing us back. They want to go back to, they want to make America great again when it was a legal thing to discriminate and be an asshole to people. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. So yeah. Let's face it. Look at hashtag fuck Donald Trump. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, or we could hashtag Chris Hanna loves Donald Trump.
Make Donald
that
Trump
would be
again.
Amazing. Anyway, so as we close the segment out, we have a great interview that we're going to have coming up next with Ensomniak, an atheist hip-hop artist. So make sure you stick around, because when we come back from this quick commercial break, we're going to have Ensomniak join us for a short interview about his music. We'll be right back, everyone, with more Cellar Door Skeptics.
Hello, I'm Miss B. Haven.
I'm Demanda Wright.
And we're
promoting secular feminism. And you're listening to Cellar Door Skeptics.
Looking for something new and exciting, or maybe just a change from the old atheist show format? Cellar Door Skeptics podcast provides listeners with hours of enjoyment each week on Spreaker and iTunes. Check us out as we talk politics, religion, science, reviews of books and music, along with the occasional interview just for a twist. Join Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern as they bring fresh content to you. Walk with us through the cellar door as we help you prepare for the revolution. You can find us on Spreaker, iTunes, YouTube, and even on Facebook.
Hey, this is Keith.
And this is Jen, and we're from Not Another Atheist Podcast.
You're listening to Cellar Door Skeptics.
Join the revolution.
Welcome back to Cellar Door Skeptics. Thank you so much for sticking around through our first segment. Tonight, for our second segment, we want to introduce a hip-hop artist, somebody that we learned through Adamant Atheism, our friend over at a new podcast that recently came out, I think about a month and a half ago. And he had his first episode where he introduced this individual, and what it did is gave us a new album to listen to. So I thought, hey, what would be better than to bring him on the show, introduce his new album that just dropped recently within the last 2 months, and have him give us a little bit about his backstory. So, Ensomniak makes hip-hop music with a secular and atheist leaning. His first album is called Played Your Ism, and it dropped last May. It is very, very amazing, and I'll be honest, it's definitely not something you're going to hear on a public radio, which is good for me because I typically don't like pop music. I'm not really into that, and I like a lot of that more underground hip-hop music that you're going to hear. So on this album, he also has a side project, and we'll let him talk about that in a minute because I don't want to give away too much of the interview, where he does something called nerdcore music. He also is the founder of the mental rights movement, and he akins it to the civil rights movement as a movement promoting the rights of each individual that does not have a supernatural belief. So please, without any further ado, let me welcome Ensomniak, the freethinker, to the show. Welcome to the show, sir.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So how are you tonight? I know we had to reschedule one time, and hopefully that didn't screw your schedule up too much.
It's not too bad. You know, like I told you, I could make time for it. You know, I have a pretty good control of my own schedule, so it's all good.
Yeah, and that's awesome. So when I got introduced to you originally, it was on Adam's show, and I listened to the song, and I was like, holy crap, this is really good. And so that's when I decided I want to reach out to you, have a conversation about your music, and kind of what got you motivated to do, I guess the best way to call it is atheist hip-hop. Because a lot of the themes on your album is very secular and reason-based. So can you tell us a little bit about your first album and kind of what got you into doing atheist hip-hop?
All right, well, I did hip-hop for maybe, 7 years or so, before I ever actually tried to do anything, you know, leaning in a secular, rational way. I wrote one song early on, and I think I titled it something like Agnostic or something like that, and that was before I had read a whole lot or studied much about atheism and realized, you know, that really had nothing to do with my stance on atheism because, as many people know, agnosticism is a completely different thing from atheism. And as I learned more about it, you know, I wrote a song, and then some of the people that I listen to it or whatever, they're like, we don't know if anybody's really going to be into this, because at the time, this was maybe mid-2000, there wasn't much of a market for it. Like, you know, a little bit after that, I found out about people like Graydon Square and a few other people who do it. But before knowing about him, I knew of no one doing that. And urban music generally is it's kind of religious influence. Like, either the artists themselves are religious, or they kind of shy away from ever bashing religion. So therefore, I didn't really think there was a market for what I was doing, so I stepped away from it for years before I came back to it. And go ahead.
I was gonna say, and that's awesome. And you're right. I don't think there has to be a big underground movement for it. It's not something that has typically been used, let's just say, in the atheist movement. And I have my theories on that. You know, I don't think the atheist movement, I guess I don't know the proper way to say it. It's very white.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
And whether that's good or bad, I personally don't understand why we can't have more diversity. And so it's very nice to see when people like yourself who do step into the atheist movement and you do something in this genre, you give people like me the hope that go, oh, holy crap, I don't want to be surrounded by people that are identical to me, you know? Like, that's not what society is about.
Well, I don't think, let's see, as far as good or bad, I think it's unfortunate, I'd say that, because of the fact, though, that, you know, there's atheists of all types, you know, all genders, all backgrounds and everything else, but it's more acceptable in certain arenas, and unfortunately, because of, you know, several different social factors, it's easier, I'd say, for a white person to say they're atheist, socially, for it is for most other people, because there's a lot of backlash you get, especially, being black. And I'm sure, same thing would be like, say, being Hispanic or and whatnot, that if you say, hey, I don't believe in God, there's going to be a whole lot of people like, what do you mean? Like, what's wrong with you? And there's going to be people who won't want to speak to you or disown you or whatever else. I thankfully haven't had that problem, but from what I've seen and people I've talked to, it happens a lot more often, for non-white people than white people, though it happens to everyone.
Yeah. And you're right. I guess that's a better word for it. It is very unfortunate. And, it's something that I hope to be a part of changing, and I hope others see this and want to actually change the way the movement is going.
Or maybe get exposed to something they never actually experienced before. That's the big one. So, I like the idea that, you realize there wasn't really a market, you didn't really kind of push it, but when I think of your kind of music, the guys that are pushing those edges and pushing, in different places or whatever, you're kind of making your music and then letting the market find you. We've seen a growth from, the new atheist movement when the Four Horsemen really started gaining popularity, that, this kind of music was people are like, hey, this is something that I kind of think and believe and I learn about. And like you said, that you didn't really know too much and you evolved with your education over time and it changed the way your music is. Those kinds of things are, things you keep going with what you want to do. And hopefully the market finds you. And that's the same way with the culture differences. I would hope that just as time continues, you keep rocking your music and your culture will hopefully assimilate some of those ideas and we'll just have some growth and reason. And that's kind of what I hope for. And I guess my big question would be, have you seen anything like that? Have you seen a little bit more acceptance in your circles or in family circles in your area?
I'd say in the last decade, I've seen a bit more of it. Like I said, it was like a little bit over, I guess, a decade ago when I was first kind of testing the waters for it. But at that point in time, I knew any other atheists, but also I hadn't yet gotten to different online scenes and circles where more of them congregate, more of them, converse. So I just didn't have the exposure. So I was still kind of one of those, man, I'm in this by myself type of deals where a lot of people, like that when they first kind of realize their stance and that they're atheists, like a lot of people say, man, I don't know anybody else who is. So I was kind of like that for a while. And while I was like that, that's when I was like, oh, I don't think anybody's going to want to listen to it. Why should I even bother making it? I was like, yeah, I like it, but so if no one else listens to me, it won't matter. But then like I said, I got more into it. I read a few books. I, started forums and some other things. I was like, oh, okay, there are more people like this. There are more people who would be receptive to this type of message. Let me toss a song out here. Let me toss another one out here. Because this first album, actually, I built it over actually a few years because I only made a song here and there at first. And then I kind of sped it up over time once I noticed that people were really, into what I was doing.
Yeah. And see, that's, like I said, one of the big things is bringing a diverse atmosphere to the community and to the movement. And, so we could take, let's say, for instance, your first track is called Morality. And you say you have a Sam Harris quote in here. So I'll be honest, I'm not a big Sam Harris fan, so I don't know what is the quote and is not the quote. So you want to talk a little bit about that song to begin with?
Yeah, the quote is just, I think at the beginning of it. But, I know some people are, some people aren't. With me, I like some of the things he said. Because to me, sometimes he has some points. Other times, he's kind of off base. But as you know, you're going to get that with most people, whether it be leaders in the atheist movement or whatever else. Some things you'd be like, okay, he's on point here. Other things you're going to be like, well, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah,
but
nobody's above critique. That's where it's at, man.
Very much so. But yeah, in that song, it came from, a few different people over the years talking about, say, for instance, I've had people stop conversations with me and refuse to speak to me because I didn't believe what they believe. I've had someone ask me, how do I know the difference between right and wrong if I don't go to church and, read the Bible? And the first time I was asked that, I was a teenager, and I didn't even know how to respond to that because I had never imagined that you would need that. So when you said, how do I know if I don't go? I'm like, what do you even mean? So later I learned how to answer the question, but, it made me think, hold on, is this really where you want to get your morality from? Because it's a horrific book.
Yeah.
You can't, you can't find tales of horror much worse than what's in there.
Yeah, just imagine if, like, I don't know, Stephen King got a hold of it and decided to turn it into his next book or something like that. That's what I see the Bible as.
It wouldn't be hard. It definitely wouldn't be hard.
It wouldn't change much.
And so one of the big things, that I like about your music is a lot of them, so this song right there, you talk about the contradictions is what I would call it in the Bible, where they talk about being good, and then it kind of goes into, you have, a couple lyrics that, talk about genocide, that talk about stoning disobedient children. And you pulled all that right from the Bible, And one of the other things I noticed when it comes to your album is you can understand what you say. You don't talk, you don't rap real fast, and I don't know if that's the proper terminology. Excuse me if I say it incorrectly.
It's fine.
But I can understand everything you say, and like for somebody like me, that works out really well. I like that, and I was able to understand your lyrics without having to go, all right, let me go look that up a minute. And if I know you probably never heard our show, I'm a big metalhead, so for the most part, you can't understand anything anybody says in the music that I'm listening to. So, can we talk a little bit about what led up to your atheism? And when we talked online, you said, "Hey, I've really always pretty much been an atheist," and I think that's a unique twist, because a lot of people in the atheist community have come out of religion. We're now just finding, people like Chris, who never was really religious, my co-host, he never was really religious, whereas I grew up like Southern Baptist, basically. And so tell us a little bit about your backstory and kind of how it played into where you're at today.
All right, well, growing up, I guess, by the time I was born, my dad had stopped going to church completely. My mother was at best, Christmas and Easter, Catholic. So we went to masses those 2 times a year, and that's really it. Honestly, I could probably, I've probably been to church services maybe 2-3 dozen times in my life. And like I said, because my parents, they weren't serious about it. They didn't care. We never talked about the Bible at home at all. So I really didn't know anything about it until, honestly, 9th grade when I went to a Catholic school. I went to a Catholic school in 4th grade, too, but I didn't pay attention to much they did with that. But like I said, so I didn't really know it. Like, say, when I was a kid, if you would ask me, hey, is there a God? I probably would say, I guess so. Because I didn't think about it. I put zero thought to it because it wasn't actually impactful in my life at all. But like I said, once I started learning about it in 9th grade when I went to Catholic school, because we had to have, as they called it, a religion class. But as you might imagine, we studied mainly one religion. So as we went through that, I learned a little bit more, and I just asked a bunch of questions because I didn't get it. And I would ask questions that to me seemed perfectly valid and logical questions because I approached it like any other subject. I had questions, give me factual answers, based in this. But like, you're critiquing a storybook. It's kind of hard to give direct answers. And I actually had these people say, oh, well, you got to have faith. I'm like, that's not even close to an answer. Like, I want numbers or data or something. So, basically, like I said, I grew up without much religious influence or knowledge, honestly. And so by the time I got there and I started learning about Christianity, I was like, okay, well, this one seems really flawed and ridiculous. Let me learn about some other ones. And so I started learning about some other world religions, over time. And I saw I learned a little bit about Islam, and I saw okay, they have some nice ideas about brotherhood. Then I saw how they treat women, and I was like, oh, well, this is some bullshit. So I moved from that, started learning a little bit about other ones. I looked at the Vedic scriptures a little bit to see what they were about. I looked at Buddhism a little bit, just like I want to learn about, because as you know, religion is one of the few things, other than politics, I guess, that people will live for, die for, and kill for. So I figured it's something worth at least aware of. And so I studied it a little bit more and more, and I kind of recreationally researched theology from the time I was a teenager into my 20s and 30s. And so I was like, I want to learn about this stuff because it's important to other people, but it's not for me, definitely.
Yeah. And that's good because, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation if you were a Christian. It probably would not be. Maybe we would. It wouldn't be as fun, though, I can tell you that.
Well, you'd probably be pretty interesting Catholic when you go to the school, and they're like a Catholic school that has studied Islam. Let's say that would be pretty strange. I really like the idea. You kind of were like the apatheist, is what I've heard described. Like you kind of grew up in a culture. God was a thing that was just assumed, and it wasn't critiqued. It wasn't attacked. It was just this amorphous thing in the background that you just said, yeah, cool, whatever, and you moved on. You lived life in reality, and I would say that a majority of people in this country and in a lot of places around the world, they just accept, okay, that's a thing, that's just a thing. That's it. It's not a very important thing in life. It's just whatever. And they live their life in reality. They deal with any kind of reason and rationality that you would have to do in real life. And then when you question it or critique it, that's when that one card comes out and they say, nope, you can't do that. Like that just, I accept theism without questioning it. And it's awesome that you found your way out just by basic research. It's kind of how I was with, like Chris said, I never believed either. The same kind of situation. I never really gave a rat's ass until I was in college and people were starting to swear and freak out about abortion stances and stuff. So my question, gets to this line of thought is like, what kind of political ends are you doing with some of this stuff as far as your theistic beliefs, obviously non-beliefs, that you dabble with any more of this, the political ends and the civil rights stuff? Because that was something that Chris was saying we're going to bring up here.
All right. Well, I guess as far as that goes, I'm pretty damn liberal on most everything. Actually, I guess I'd probably be considered progressive because there's like, I'm trying to think if there's any conservative stances I even hold, and I think so. Like, but then again, honestly, I'd probably be considered a socialist the way I see things. I don't.
You'll fit in great here, man.
I don't believe in leaving people behind. I don't I can't even be a libertarian because that'll lead to feudalism because way too much confidence in the general public. Because, like, say, for instance, if you shut down the government programs, people aren't going to contribute to charity. They already contribute as much as they're going to contribute. Yeah. That's what's going to happen, and then people are going to fall through the cracks, and, it's going to be bad news for a lot of people. So, like I said, I'm pretty socialistic. I see politics. I'm pretty progressive as far as like policies. I think everybody should have equal rights to everybody. You want to have an abortion, that's your choice. You want to, be whatever gender, sexuality, do your thing. Because you know what? Doesn't hurt me. So why not? So yeah, I'm pretty liberal leaning on just about every issue. And actually, one of the things I did want to do a little bit of, as I work on future projects, I wanted to talk a little bit more about social issues as opposed to just religious issues. Because the first one, it was mostly like just religious stuff. And I want to get a little bit more into social issues, maybe touch on a little bit of politics. I guess we'll see after where this next election goes. But, it's kind of makes people nervous because it could go bad. Like if you try to touch on, expand a little bit from where I started. But like I said, the first album I wanted to focus on like the main issues at hand, which were, a bunch of the problems with religion in society due to it.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think the religion plays hand in hand to the politics nowadays. I think if you look at the Conservative Party and you look at what they've done in, let's just say, the last 100 years, and yeah, they've become more liberal, let's say. They've moved away from some of their views, but then they started to split, and now all of a sudden the loudest party seems to be the Tea Party, until all of a sudden Donald Trump, and I don't even know what party he is. He's like the racist party. That's kind of the only thing I can say. He says things just to get shock value, I guess.
Well, I mean, he's part of the authoritarian party, if that's a thing. Yeah. Because he really wants to be a dictator. Because that's how he thinks, apparently, the country works. I guess he thought about Obama so many times, he thinks that's actually a thing. But if he was a dictator, man, think about things that would have actually happened. It'd be amazing. Ugh. But
I can't. Anyway. I can't. I got people in Canada already saying they'll vouch for me if Trump comes in office. Like, come to Canada. Come to Canada.
Well, we've also got to worry about the checks and balances that we've got set up. Like, we have a House Congress and a House Senate and representatives. Like, that end at 2/3 is still conservative right now, depending on how the lower, the down ticket goes for the presidential election, and not a lot of people pay attention to. All the congressmen and people that are open for election. the liberals and progressives have to get their asses in there and take care of that as well, not just the presidential election. But if Trump got in with the people who are currently in offices in those places right now, then you would see, the ability for all three of these branches to start acting in concert, and then you've got that dictator, authoritarian power. So hopefully we can at least keep the checks and balances, because if Trump's in, maybe we could get an objectionist or an obstructionist Congress to block him or something, because that would be really bad.
It's just no way for a country to work.
I know.
There's a lot of people that say, our Constitution needs a rewrite from the ground up, because it's so, basically they're able to be obstructionist so much we get absolutely nothing accomplished.
Yeah.
There should be no way they should be able to say, oh, we don't like this bill, so we're going to shut the whole government down. What?
We don't want your Supreme Court justice, so we just simply won't even vote on it. We won't even talk about it.
It's ridiculous. But I don't know, man. It's honestly, it's so disheartening, and the people that say they want to leave, I can't blame them.
Well, and that's a sad thing, because personally, outside of Trump, I don't really want to leave. I mean, there is a lot of issues, but it does seem like society is changing, and it's changing a little bit faster than when I was a kid, And I don't know how old you are, and I won't date you if you don't want to. We're 35.
I don't care.
All right.
I was say you said 30s as a past tense, so we had to we got to make some assumptions.
Well, I said into my 30s. I'm 35, so.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So we're we grew up roughly around the same time. So I think society is moving faster towards a more socialistic bent, and I do think, even though the problem I have with the media is the media bombards us with all sorts of negativity and all sorts of these other things, and I don't think sometimes they highlight some of the positive changes. I mean, if we look at gay rights, right, and everybody's allowed to get married now, and that's a positive thing. Yeah, it has only been 1 year. There is a lot more work to do, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't at least celebrate and say, hey, would this have even been possible 20 years ago? Because it obviously wouldn't,
Oh, yeah, but I agree with you. Things have been changing fast. It always amuses me, though, when I've seen things like people say, oh, well, gay marriage is legal, I'm going to move to Canada. I was like, it's been legal for a decade there.
Yeah, that's true. So let's go back to your music, because you have an untapped section that you called Nerdcore. And so let's talk about that just a little bit. And a little bit of background from my side is, I don't know if you know anything about, I can't remember the name of the artist now off the top of my, MC Chris. And,
yeah.
And he's kind of what got me into some of the Nerdcore artists, because that's what he claimed he was. And then when he kind of stopped rapping about video games and smoking weed, I kind of lost interest. I was like, well, this isn't what the hell, this isn't Nerdcore anymore. But so tell us a little bit about your other music that maybe other people will want to listen to and check out.
Well, I really love pop culture. Like, me and a couple of friends of mine, we go to conventions a lot, comic conventions and other pop culture type conventions. Take pictures, and do little video pieces on it and stuff like that. But basically, we're all geeks, and we really get into geek culture. In the nerdcore music, and only some of mine is nerdcore, because I'm kind of a little bit nerdcore, a little bit just kind of pop culture referencing. Like, for instance, I made a song about Dragon Ball Z before. And I've made, let's see, I was working on a song where, I kind of take on the persona of a player in an RPG game. But then I've also done songs, I did a song that's all about the show Dexter. So, just a lot of different pop culture things that I do. I did, me and a couple guys, we did one about the Lantern Corps. So, another guy, he had me on a track where he was basically doing a 007, GoldenEye type of thing.
Oh, yeah.
So, a little throwback thing for that. And, we kind of took on, acting like we were kind of in that world and, took on a character in that world. So, I've done several different things like that. And it's just honestly, a lot of fun. I did one about the game. It's an old school, I guess, early 90s game, maybe, Ghosts and Goblins.
Oh, yeah.
I did a little thing about that. Just kind of it's a little one verse, synopsis of the play of the game, Arthur and his exploding armor that he has. But,
yeah.
like I said, so just playing around with stuff like that. And honestly, I just find that to be a lot of fun. Now, people, honestly, just as far as the reaction and reception I've got from my music, they like my Ensomniak stuff a whole lot more, that I've, put out the atheist community, because that's been well received throughout this country, and I've gotten people from other countries buy my music too. Like my nerdier stuff, not as much of a reception, but the people that hear it do like what I do, and they think I'm good at it. There's a lot more people that are in that subgenre that have a lot more popularity and a lot bigger names. So it's a little bit harder to I guess show yourself in that one than it is in like say the atheist arena where there's like 5 guys.
That's true.
Yeah. Also, we've got to warn everyone that maybe if we can't edit out, it might sound like we're in the middle of a gunfight out here. We've got fireworks going nuts in the background. I'm watching the monitor. We're actually seeing spikes when the people are shooting this stuff off. It's crazy out here. I don't know. Are you in an area where you're hearing a lot of the fireworks and the big 4th of July stuff or no?
Well, yeah, I hear them, but I guess they're not supposed to making too much noise here. I shut my windows and such. I'm hearing them, but it's mostly background. Yeah. So, I mean, like, whatever is feeding, I guess your mics are picking it up, but I'm not even hearing it when you guys are talking. But every now and then I hear like something, but it's not that bad as far as I can tell.
That's good, because we definitely don't want it to sound like it's a gun zone or something.
At least you don't, that's for sure.
So, well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your night to have a conversation with us. And we put all links in the description, but we always like to give the guest a way to plug live where they can find you.
All right. Well, I would say the easiest and best place to find me is on Facebook.com/Ensomniak, because that's the place you'll find me the most. Like, I have a Twitter also at Ensomniak, I believe. I have Ensomniak too, which has a link to all the other things I do in places I am. And so, like I said, you can find through any of those. But if you ever want to speak to me, just chat about something, ask me a question, whatever, Facebook is the best way, because, like, honestly, since this isn't what I do the most, the geeky stuff is actually what I spend more of my time on. I'm on my main Facebook page even more. So, like, if you ever want to look up any of that stuff, Night Visions, NYTEVISIONS, I have a whole website for that. That's my other Facebook profile. That's where all my geeky stuff is. And, and honestly, like, I love humor, so I make jokes. Hell, I've done a stand-up set before. So, I do a bunch of other stuff too, and I kind of relegate the Insomniac stuff mostly to the atheist stuff, because it's its own little kind of subsection of who's actually into that. Because if people like all the other stuff, I'm not trying to turn them off because of this. But at the same, if anybody that likes this likes any of my other stuff, then hey, come over and join me there too.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you again so much, Ensomniak, for joining us. And hopefully you're not truly an insomniac, because that would probably suck if you didn't sleep at all.
Well, also, just in case anybody is listening on Spreaker or on cell phone apps or anything like that, it's spelled Ensomniak. It's spelled a little differently, so when you look up Insomniac, you need to spell it that way, just in case you're too lazy to go check out the links or whatever. So remember that spelling. That's the only way you'll be able to find it.
Oh, yeah. And I guess it helps with branding, because, since things otherwise aren't spelled that way, you're only going to find me if you put that in.
That's true. That's true. You came up right away when we Googled it. So, well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. All your links will be in the description, and make sure everybody sticks around, because when we come back from this amazing drinking break, we're going to have more Cellar Door Skeptics. We'll be right back, everyone.
This is Ishmael Brown, the HNIC from the Angry Black Rant podcast, and you're listening to the Cellar Door Skeptics.
Hi, my name's Callie.
And I'm Ari.
If you're like most of us, you're very concerned about the gay agenda's plans for world domination.
Are you tired of seeing glitter all over every damn thing?
Do you hate rainbows as much as any other red-blooded American?
Then we have the answer for all your baseless fears and unjustified paranoia.
Presented exclusively on Secular Media Network, the Gaytheist Manifesto is your source for news, commentary, discussion, and debate at the intersection of the atheist movement and the LGBT rights movement.
You can find us on Spreaker, iTunes, and at gaytheistmanifesto.secularmediagroup.com.
If you're not ready to get in line for your mandatory gay marriage, and you're terrified of short-haired women in pantsuits, come have a listen and get up to date on their plans. You'll be glad you did.
This is Trav Ramon, host of the By Any Means podcast, and you're listening to Cellar Door Skeptics. Prepare for the revolution. We have cookies.
Now, back to the show.
Welcome back to Cellar Door Skeptics. Thank you so much for sticking around through the first 2 segments. We talked a little bit about ChristianMingle, and Hannah signed up for an account called Antichrist Superstar 666.
Oh, no, we just did Antichrist, and it was taken, but Antichrist Superstar would have been a good one. We should have tried that, man. Marilyn Manson's probably got that one covered, though.
Yeah. Probably. He probably's on there all the time, you know.
Yeah.
And then after we talked about ChristianMingle, we went into an interview with the Ensomniak, the freethinker, a hip-hop artist in the atheist community. But we thought we'd close tonight talking about Fitbit trackers. And you're probably wondering, why the fuck would we want to talk about that? And why is that something that would even come up on Cellar Door Skeptics? But Hannah found an article in the technology field under CNBC, and they talk about how they're being sued for being widely inaccurate.
Fitbit is being sued, yeah.
Yes, Fitbit is being, not CNBC.
CNBC is not in charge of measuring your steps, man. It's just not going to happen.
And the interview is done by a guy named Mark Spoonhour.
There you go.
That's how I'm going to say it, because I don't know whether that's right or not.
Close enough. He's apparently he says Tom's Guide for Editor-in-Chief or whatever. Basically, the article breaks down. It's just that these things are highly inaccurate, and we got scare quotes on that because what they're talking about mostly is an inaccuracy when it comes to beats per minute on measuring and monitoring your heart rate. Personally, when I think Fitbit, when I think all of these step meters and these fancy watches that are Bluetooth enabled and connecting and keeping track of everything, it's more, your steps, your movements, how active you are, vertical, climbing stairs, going downstairs, whatever, like that to me. But nowadays, I guess people are using these things as legitimate health monitoring systems. They're measuring your beats per minute on your heart rate, and if they can do blood pressure or whatever, but I doubt that. But like this, to me, it seems like people are expecting a little too much from this. But they're being sued for being highly inaccurate, like up to 20 to 30 beats per minute off, maybe about 14% is what I've seen some of this stuff. So like, do you think this is too much? Like we're looking at, $100, $200, $300 watches that measure your health. Is this too much that you're expecting for, a watch that just Bluetooth connects to your phone and keep track of stuff, or what?
Well, so I think the big thing here is not how far it's off, right? I mean, that is a problem. Yeah. And I won't tell you that it's not. But I think the bigger problem is what they're claiming it can do. Do they claim that they are the end-all, be-all? Do they claim to do, pulse rate, heart rate? Do they claim all these different things? Because if they do claim that, I do have a problem. I'll be honest. I would have a problem if I bought a watch for $150, and I think that's what they cost, and it told me, hey, I'm going to track how many steps you do every day. And I'm going to track what your heart rate is, and I'm going to track it out and statistically show you that your heart rate's going up or down and what it takes. Because if you think about it, right, at my job, I walk a lot in a warehouse, and we walk back and forth, and we do count steps. We actually have a contest at work, which I've never won, but we have a contest for how many steps somebody does in a day. And I think the record right now is like 200,000 or something like that. And that person, I think, purposely walked everywhere. Yeah,
it's like jumping jacks and nonstop movement.
But the average is about 20 to 40,000 a day, depending on what your position is and how far you have to walk. So when I had to do a cycle count for the warehouse, and it was a 3-hour cycle count, it's a financial audit, I had to walk, 17 or 20 aisles worth of product. And we had to walk up and down because there's one product on each aisle at least. And so I got tons of steps in that day. So the question really is, what does Fitbit claim? And if they're claiming these things, if they're claiming that
it's like a legit medical device, it's something that you can use to track your numbers.
Yeah.
And then my guess is in the fine print, it probably says that, we're probably a little bit off, blah, 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 but I don't know exactly how accurate people are expecting these things to be. For me personally, like if I'm buying something just from whatever company, it's like, okay, this is going to be something to help me keep track of my general health, but I'm not going to use this as a replacement for seeing the doctor and measuring my blood pressure and heartbeats per minute. If I think it's too high, I'm having elevated, heart activity. This isn't a supplement for going to the doctor for anything that you think is a problem. So that's where I think a lot of people are running into as far as what this lawsuit is saying. It's like it's not as accurate as they expect it to be.
So let's look at their mission. Their mission statement is this: to empower and inspire you to live a healthier, more active life. We design products and experiences. We design products and experiences that fit seamlessly into your life so you can achieve your health and fitness goals. So that's what they're claiming. That's their high level, if you want to call it, fitness.
Like their goals, yeah.
Yes.
It's a broad spectrum thing. So like this is more of a health awareness, make the nation, make the world a healthier place type thing. And that's where I think these devices work really well. Let's face it, they're not perfectly accurate. Maybe it misses 500 to 1,000 to 2,000 steps, whatever. Maybe it's off by 10, 20, 30 beats per minute throughout your day. But if you're using these devices, you're probably paying more attention to your general health. You're probably paying attention to health and just a healthier culture for more people using these things. That's a national net benefit, net positive, I would say. So if they're saying that these things are going to be like legitimate medical devices, guaranteed certain accuracy, then yes, I think that is something that they need to remove from their advertising. But I don't see it. I don't see it a lot of places, and I see this as something like, oh crap, McDonald's didn't warn us that their coffee is hot, so we're going to sue them because they didn't warn us about it. Well, I haven't seen the Fitbit people and the step meter people. There's a variety of companies that do it. This isn't just Fitbit, but I don't see these people saying that these things are going to be absolutely amazingly perfect. They're saying this is a tool that you can use to measure your general health. And so I personally think that this lawsuit is a little bit too much, but it could be a good tool for help us decide what is a legitimate advertisement for some of these things, because we don't want woo in our science.
And you're right. And I'll be honest, I'm even kind of skeptical of this CNBC article. And they basically say researchers at the California State Polytechnic University tested the heart rates of 43 healthy adults with Fitbit's pulse rate heart using the company's Surge watches and Charge HR bands on each wrist. So now, in my opinion, that's a pretty low sample
really
study.
Small.
That's pretty small. I mean, how many people are in the world? 7 billion. How many people own Fitbits? I don't know. Let's just say 1 billion or 1 million or 2 million.
Yeah, they said it's a $3 billion industry. In 2015, $3 billion. So how many Fitbits does that buy?
I don't know. A ton.
Yeah. So like, there's a ton of people happening here. I do think it'd probably be better to have a little bit bigger sample size on this.
Yeah, and so that, I'll be honest, for me, that's the first indicator that I go, hold on, that looks skeptical. I'm kind of skeptical of this. I'm kind of skeptical of what the lawsuit is. Are they honestly looking for scientific rigor, or are they really just looking to make money?
Or to bust up.
Do they see billions of dollars and go, can we make money off this? Can we find something to fuck them on, basically? And so the study was commissioned by somebody named, I don't even know how to say this guy's name, Leif Cabraser.
Man, your name pronunciation is just epic. It's gorgeous. I believe it was Leif Cabraser.
Is it amazing, Hannah?
No, I'm not saying that.
Say it.
I'm not saying it. I'm not doing it. No, I would say probably Leif Cabraser. But either way, yeah, the study was commissioned by Leif Cabraser. It's a law firm behind the class action suit. So that's against the Fitbit stuff too. And the site I use for a lot of my I don't quite like Consumer Reports, because they're a little fishy when it comes to who's funding them. But the website I use for a lot of my technical stuff is C/net, and they tested a bunch of different devices, and they found a little bit more consistent results and a little bit more accuracy. And so I'm going to include this link in there as well, and you can read through the CNET results. And so these are basically websites with differing stuff, but the CNET stuff isn't going to be involved in this lawsuit. So we'll see what the total conclusions are with the lawsuit itself. But I wanted to just go beyond, the specific lawsuit and saying, like, when you're buying a watch that you're using for, to monitor your health, are you looking for something that you would expect a doctor to pull out of a drawer and give to you in the hospital? Or are you looking for something like, okay, what's my general health? How's my heart rate? How's my heart, how many beats per minute? Am I unhealthy? Am I healthy? Am I getting enough steps? That's what I expect these watches to do. I don't expect these things to give me a total overall health, a specific breakdown or something like that. So if it's inaccurate by a little bit, then maybe you can get a general number, and then I'll go talk to my physician or something.
So let's look at it a bit. Let's go through their website. They have something called Fitbit app, right? Fitbit app has a purpose for every part of your day.
So it's
all
like
day
Big Brother.
Activities.
Big Brother is watching you at all times.
They talk about all day activities, sleeping goals and tools, multi-tracker support, and mobile tracking.
This sounds like something Google would do if it was trying to accrue all of the data about your life at all points.
They want to know how lazy we are.
Does this person not sleep very well? We should send them advertisements for the memory foam beds or something. I don't know.
And that reminds me of a Futurama episode. If you think about back in the first season, Fry, I don't know, anybody's not seen Futurama, you should go out and check that out.
Oh, yeah.
Fry walks into this like supermarket or this mall, and they have advertising. He's like, "Hey, I saw that in my dreams." They're like, "Oh yeah, we advertise right into your dreams."
Oh man, that's genuinely freaky. I saw a movie not so long ago about it. It's like nanomachines that can get delivered through the mail, and then you'll have like paranoid freakouts about certain kinds of products. I don't know, it's really weird. But yeah, no, the Fitbit thing, like, it monitors everything you're doing, like wakefulness and sleep. My wife has one, and she was like, "Oh, you should wear this for me so you can get me more steps." And I was like, "Oh, that sounds kind of anti the whole purpose or something." But no, the sleeping thing, I think that would be pretty cool. But what it's doing is just measuring like how much you move around. Well, what if you sleep really good, but you sleep like you're in a concrete mixer? It's going to say you were awake all night long, but maybe you were sleeping really good. I move around a ton in my sleep because I always get yelled at for taking over like half the bed because I sleep like I'm having a seizure. But I mean,
is that 'cause
I don't really know like how these devices can measure legitimate, accurate sleep. It just, okay, how much do you move? So these are more general areas where I can think, great, this thing is measuring that, but it's probably not the most accurate thing in the world. Yeah, so what do? We take these things with a grain of salt. Okay, this is good for measuring, general health. How do you sleep? How much do you move in a day? But expecting more than that, I think that people are expecting more than what they should be, what they're paying for. Like, you're not paying for this. Like, plug something into your actual body to measure your legitimate numbers, like you would if they were doing a sleep study or if they were doing blood pressure tests and stuff. I don't think that what people are expecting, except for someone looking to do a lawsuit like this.
Yeah, and if you look through the actual website, right, they have a fun section with a blog, a BuzzFeed, fitness questions, Fitbit Local to find people who are doing this with you, Fitbit Science. They are what I would call the Fox News of exercise. I mean, they're portraying that they know what they're talking about, that they have a tool to get to the end means, but they're not actually claiming anything in here that I can tell. I mean, I don't see anything in here that claims we are scientifically accurate at all. Yeah. Well, nothing in here.
I mean, that makes sense. If you're marketing your product, you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into a tiny space. So that's the reason why I thought this article, or at least this lawsuit, would be interesting, is because what this is going to do is it's going to essentially define this market. So what you're allowed to do. It's like we've talked about just, in the background or whatever, talking about, is it okay for the evangelist to sell tap water in little bags to people who believe that it'll make a big difference in their lives if they buy it through mail order or whatever? It's like, is it okay that those people get scammed, that those people get screwed over because they're making that particular decision? Well, it's the same kind of thing with this. It's like, is it okay that these people are buying these particular products thinking they're getting a much, much higher quality, much more accurate device than what they're actually getting? So there's a gray area, a blurry area where regulation and things are going to be concerned. And I don't know the answer. I don't know exactly where we should go with this, but I personally think that these things, they should have a disclaimer saying like, this is a good device for measuring your general health and, you know, getting yourself on the way to being a healthier individual, but you should never supplement it or take this device's specific findings to replace any kind of doctor findings or any kind of physician statistics that you would get if you went to a legitimate doctor for, you know, a real checkup. As long as they have that in their, you know, their fine print, because I guarantee if they have any problems with this, there'll be a wall of fine print when you purchase these products that will have that in there. But I think it's a legitimate thing that, you know, if some people really ridiculously think that these things are going to be super accurate, then yeah, I guess they have a case.
But that's only if they really want that, right? And
No.
I think you're right. I think that's the big thing. Inside of their website, they don't claim anything more than Fox News does. And if we can't sue Fox News for being inaccurate, we shouldn't be able to sue fucking Fitbit for being inaccurate. I mean, they don't tell you, hey, don't go see the doctor, we're your solution. Hey, by the way, we're going to do this for the $150 you pay us, and then you just upgrade every year, right? Yeah. They're not even claiming that. They don't claim any of that. They just say, hey, this is just do it yourself. We'll provide you with the tools to be successful, and then let you put the execution in your hands. I mean, they say that right there on the fucking website.
It says the wellness toolkit and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so like, what do we require? Hey, you know, a trigger warning, right? Or like, hey, here's a warning: don't use us as, you know, as a replacement for your you know, your doctor or whatever.
And I'll be honest, I think they should add that. I do think that should be on there.
And I will agree with that. That's what I would expect. That little bit would satisfy me.
Yep. I think if anything comes out of the lawsuit, not the Wall Street suit, the lawsuit, if anything comes out of this, I do think that should be on there. You know, I guess in the end, is it the end all be all? Is it something I would even have fucking picked up on? No. Like, not at all. Like, some of this is just horribly illogical, and again, it does feel like that McDonald's hot coffee lawsuit. It feels like people are manipulating the law to make money or to take the easy road. And yeah, the ultimate issue here is that we don't have universal fucking healthcare. And yeah, I'll stand on my fucking soapbox about this. If we had universal health care...
Tangent warning.
If we had universal health care, this would be a non sequitur. We wouldn't have this issue. We wouldn't have to worry about whether they put on there to replace your health care price, because nobody would do that. If you could go to the doctor and get goddamn service without having to pay an arm and a leg, people would have Fitbits as just... They would be accessories. That's all they would be. They'd be like a phone.
In Bernie Sanders' crazy, creepy socialist future, everyone has to wear a Fitbit that monitors you at all time.
And maybe that would be in. That would not be technically Bernie Sanders, because Bernie actually kind of floats closer to that anarchist socialist side versus the authoritarian side. That would be more of a Hillary Clinton thing if that came about.
His perspective is left. It's not crazily left. He's not, you know, a Marxist or anything. And Hillary is centrist, and Obama is centrist, and Donald Trump is poofy hair at the bottom of the sewer.
But he's still authoritarian.
And Donald Trump is behind the Fitbit thing here.
Now you're making conclusions without evidence.
Yeah, no. Either way, I mean, we pretty much
you sound like Chris.
We beat this thing down to the bottom. Like, don't expect your Fitbit to be a replacement for your doctor. Don't expect it to be perfect in any way, shape, or form. Duh. This is a duh moment for, you know, American law, where the lawyers are like, we can make you $1 million if you sue whatever. So, like, yeah, this is exactly what I expected. These things are not perfectly accurate. They're awesome for getting people more interested. You know, there's the new technology, your cell phone. Everybody loves their cell phone connectivity and stuff. Awesome. I love the fact that people are paying more attention to their general health. They're measuring their steps and their activity. That's great. You know, I would expect these companies to kind of give a little bit of a disclaimer saying, listen, this is not the perfect device in the world, but there's more positive here than negative, and this lawsuit, when it's concluded, will help just make a basic definition. They'll need some kind of a disclaimer or some kind of Surgeon General's warning on the outside of the box or whatever, but it's not going to be this like, oh, Fitbits are illegal or anything like that. So it's an interesting thing for modern technology and something that people should consider when it comes to buying these devices.
Yeah. I mean, and some of the quotes on their website is this. It says, "We think the device is easy to use, gets people aware of how little they are walking, and helps trigger people to get active."
Yep.
And they also say this: to see the success of the Cloud Fit program and the enthusiasm around Fitbit has been incredibly rewarding to me. It's built a great sense of community and has set a really strong foundation for our wellness program. That's all this is. That's all it is. And we need to stop treating this like it's the end-all be-all. And again, it goes back to two different things. One, we have shitty fucking healthcare in America, period. Two, we have the ability to sue people for any fucking thing, anywhere, for any time we want. We just go, yep, we're going to sue you. See ya. Boom. We want money. Capitalism, run rampant. Fuck you, libertarian. That's what I say. Fuck you. That's what has created this.
We tried this to have this a lighthearted, fun thing where we're kind of making fun of Fitbits and people that think these things are going to be like heart monitors that are perfect. Nope, we ended on a soapbox tangent about libertarians being evil. No, it's a fun thing, and you know I don't know. I can't take your soapbox anywhere from you, dude. You slam that thing out
because you don't have a soapbox, Hannah. You never stand on a soapbox. You just kind of walk around it and twiddle your thumbs.
Yeah, that's why people like me.
Yeah. Well, and because that's why you're a Trump supporter. Just wait. You're gonna have that Trump 2016 shirt on next week. I guarantee it.
And I'll show you my new Canadian passport.
Fair enough. Touche. So anyway, from Cellar Door Skeptics, this has been another amazing episode for those playing the drinking game. And yes, if you don't know what the drinking game is, go back and listen to the last couple of episodes, because Hannah and I created a new drinking game that he won't even participate in it.
It's because we drink the whole time during the show. All
right, so tell everybody how they can play the drinking game as we close the show up.
Well, you love to say the word amazing, because when you're really trying to find a nice word to explain how cool the show is, that's your clutch. That's the word you go to. And we were going to say, yeah, everybody should throw down on a drink or two when they hear you say amazing, I guess. Just kind of like the White Russian rule. And
if people go back and listen,
Big Lebowski.
If people go back and listen, what did I say this segment? And maybe this was in pre-show, I don't remember, but I said I would get you to say that word before the end of the episode, and I did twice. You have officially said it twice, sir. That's like a drinking game on my end. I'm going to do a shot as soon as we're done just because I got you to say it twice. Anyway, from those of us at Cellar Door Skeptics, make sure you go over to iTunes, give us a rating, preferably 5-star, but whatever floats your boat. Give us a rating on iTunes, go over to Spreaker, give us a like, give us a share, and hey, if you want to throw us a couple of bucks an episode, go over to our Patreon account, because we would be ever grateful for the amount of money that we've invested into this program and into helping entertain and bring a little bit of science and education every single week.
You might be able to find some really cool godless recipes on our Pinterest page too, maybe.
And you will. So, for those of you still tuning in, this is Chris and Chris Squared with Cellar Door Skeptics. Have a good night, everyone.
You've been listening to a presentation of Cellar Door Skeptics. Check us out on Spreaker, cellardoorskeptics.com.